Well, very good evening and welcome to the West Ham Voice. Our first group stage game of the Europa Conference League. I hope you're all looking forward to it now that we're in the competition proper. Going to talk a little bit about Steaua from what we kind of know, and also talk about our team news, etc., and try and work out exactly who'll be starring in the team, who'll be starting in the team on Thursday night. And I've got a guess because we're going to talk about more of their history than we know more about their history than we do about their past. Then I can't call him a guest, actually. Co-host. Good evening, Nigel.
Yeah, that's right. Get it right.
You well?
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, busy day.
Yeah, I've been dotting about London.
Yeah, as you do.
You know me. I've been to everywhere. Been to Welling, been to Fulham.
Welling? That's not even London, mate.
No, then down to Fulham, and then out to Essex. So,
well, not proper London then. Like you,
Fulham. I call Fulham proper London.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Well, full of toffs down there, but you know.
Yeah. Well, I go to working class bit still, but obviously you won't know where that is.
In where?
The working class bit. Why have you got a chip fryer in front of you? What's that? Fucking hell.
It's a new
Could you not get a bigger one?
It's fucking big enough, I tell you.
Do you reckon?
There you go.
That's what I said. You could try. It's what them posh restaurants give you your little fish and chips in, isn't it? You know, and you're like, they come out with
upside down.
Yeah.
It's a new mic, and if you watch, I don't know if you watched the weekly on Monday night. I was all set. Everything was all set, and then everything just died. I went live, and everything just died, and I just froze with this thing in front of me, and I had to stop the thing and restart. Oh. So people got 3 minutes of nothing. Mind you, got good hits.
Well, that's a bonus with you, and 3 minutes of nothing.
Massive bonus. So let's talk about Steaua. I was meant to have a fan on today, but apparently he was queuing up for 4 hours trying to buy tickets. He's a Steaua fan, and I don't know why he would have queued up for so long. But anyway, if you're watching, Eon, I hope you're well and good luck for tomorrow. But he couldn't make it, so I got the stand-in. You know. What do we know about Steaua? Or should we start? Why don't we start with what we do know about them, and that's their history. We know, they're now called Fcsb. They were Steaua Bucharest. They still play in the arena that they had. Apparently, they don't own it anymore, but I think they rent it out or something. A 55,000 seater capacity. Looks beautiful. Looks like a really lovely stadium. Last season, they came runners-up in their league, and I kind of read about how they qualified for this competition. Apparently, quite a few of these European leagues do this, where they have the main league and then they kind of stop, and then teams at a certain level play. It's like playoffs or something.
Yeah, I know the Belgium league does it. So what they do, it's a bit like, if you imagine, I don't know if people follow the rugby union. So they will play a league format tournament, and basically the idea is to finish in the top 6. And then they have a playoff, and whoever wins is the champions of the season. And it's not necessarily always the team that finishes top.
Isn't that quite weird, though, don't you think?
Look, if you enter the competition, you know the rules at the start. So if you know at the start of the season, the aim is to finish in the top 6. Someone will always finish top. Someone will always finish 6. So I don't think really that, you know what you're getting.
It is what it is, I guess. Yeah. So they finished second because of that, and that's what they helped them to enter this competition. Steaua, mentions them as Steaua. They were a team that was created by the Ministry of Defence in Romania, and in something like 2017, there was something went on that wasn't football. It was all politically motivated, and then they became Fcsb as they are now. But their history 26 times league winners, 24 times Romanian Cup winners, European Cup winners, European Super Cup winners, etc., etc. They're of past glories. I mean, you showed me something just before we went on air, and we played them as well. The last time we played them was 80.
1999.
99. I was going to say 89. And they beat us that time, didn't they?
Well, they beat us away in the first leg 2-0, and then at home it was played out to be a 0-0 draw. We put up a good fight, but they played all their players behind the ball. Obviously, they had the lead from the first leg that they were desperate to cling on to, and we couldn't find a way through against them at the time. I mean, it's one of them things where I don't know. I did notice that you Romanian Iron was in the chat, whether he can explain, because to me, it's an outsider. It sort of looks like a sort of Wimbledon, AFC Wimbledon, MK Dons type of scenario here, where you get two teams claim to have the history, and that one says we're the genuine team, and the other one says, well, we're the genuine team. Where they are is, to an outsider, it's difficult to know what one genuinely is, what one can claim to be the Steaua Bucharest that we played that did win the European Cup in '86. When they won the European Cup in '86, it was on penalties and they beat Barcelona. Barcelona was managed by still Mr. Terry Venables.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think that was his last game for Barcelona.
And John's saying here, they were never Steaua Bucharest. So there's quite a controversy about it, because actually there is a Steaua Bucharest that still plays in the league.
But this is the bit where I go, like the Wimbledon and the AFC Wimbledon bit and whatever, because, Milton Keynes are Wimbledon FC that then franchised in a way, moved to Wimbledon, but they were the team that moved up and won the FA Cup. Well, AFC Wimbledon, in their list of honours, claim they won the FA Cup in 1988.
Right.
Yeah, because they claim to be the genuine Wimbledon. Well,
so all these honours then that that they claim to sort of be part, they're saying this is the team. They just happen to have changed names, but maybe it's the Steaua Bucharest that play in the second division of the Romanian leagues that should be claiming. I mean, they're still playing.
And this is the thing, obviously, because Steaua Bucharest are still playing. These are obviously just called, FSBC, obviously, or whatever, Football Club Steaua Bucharest. Obviously, the SB stands for Steaua Bucharest. But is it a case of where this is a type, as you say, they're split away? A lot of football teams in the Eastern European blocks were run by police, military, and different government departments, like the army as well. I think CSKA. So if you had like a CSKA Sofia, CSKA Moscow, I think they were the army teams. So you had all these teams with similar names, and that would denote to them, who had sort of organised them. Mm-hmm. So if they've split away from that, they, the Ministry of Defence may have kept a Steaua Bucharest team, and then this lot went off and set off on their own.
There's Eon. UEFA is giving credit to Fcsb for winning all those trophies.
So, I'm not dissing John McCarthy or whatever, but, Eon is obviously Romanian and will have a better understanding, as I say, what really went on.
Yeah. But we've got them now. They're the modern day version, whatever you want to call them. Steaua. I think some fans still call them Steaua Bucharest and or Fcsb, whatever it is. And they've not been doing great of late. They got through to play this competition. They've got through the various playoff stages, etc. I think they played Tbilisi, where they won 4-2. And then a Slovakian team, DAC, where they beat them 1-0 in each game. And then the playoff round, they played Viking Stavanger, winning 3-1 to get through to the group stages. So they've done it. They got through, but they've not been doing so great of late. Their last league game they won 4-2, but my understanding is I think they've only won one game in in 7 league games, and they're lying something like 13th in their league at the moment. But mind you, we're not doing that well at the moment either, are we, mate, in the league?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I suppose people outside maybe look at West Ham sitting third from bottom of the table and thinking, well, they're not doing too well. The performances, we could argue, and probably we have done, belie that fact of where we are in the league. But I don't see them as being a team realistically to put up much fight against us. I'd like to think that looking at our European form last season and the way Moyes approached it, he'll approach it in the same way, and we'll put a strong team out.
Yeah, and I've really tried my best, and maybe Eon, who's in the who's in the chat, can tell me what he thinks. I've tried to sort of put together what this team is like. They don't have 2 goalies like we do. Competition goalies and league goalies. Tornavaru is their keeper, who's played 13 times already this season. This chap, from what I understand, from what I've seen, Radunovic, has played in Europa so far. And Eon, please do correct me if I'm wrong. Joskim Dawa is one of their main centre backs, as is Bohina, and their left back Pantea. Now, Malcolm Ejuma is a defensive midfielder, but he's got one of the highest goal scoring rates for them so far this season. So I imagine he'll be starting. And then Darius Alaru, an attacking midfielder, from what I've seen from the last team that they put out in the Europa Conference, might start. And then one of their more dangerous players, Andre Cordea, who's got 4 goals already this season, is quite likely to start. Miculescu, they quite like their wide men. They actually play a 4-2. They play a similar system to us, 4-2-3-1, and it's their wide men that seem to cause most of the damage. But this is the young man that we've been told to look out for, Octavian Popescu, who's primarily plays on the left wing, and he's been likened to the old playmaker Georgie Hagi, which is praise indeed, isn't it?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So Hagi, possibly one of the greatest Romanian players ever. Yeah. So it's that's quite a comparison, to be fair.
It's a big comparison, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
it is. Hagi was sort of him and Stoichkov were like the East European players that came into Western Europe and played at a top level. So
yeah. And then their captain is Florinel Coman, who's it says current top goal scorer. I think that's current top goal scorer in the league, whereas the other chap has scored in both Europe and the league. And he's quite a character, apparently, and he's the one that sort of leads the line. So I've done my best. This is the sort of team I think that they're going to put out. You know, those are the 11 players I've said, and that they primarily play a 4-2-3-1. I'm guessing that they're going to be quite defensive minded. I mean, you mentioned about the game we played against them in '99, and they got their result in one game. And although this is a group competition, but they're still going to be quite cagey, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're going to be looking, be happy to take a point, but the thing with these games is you can't really take them for granted. We can all joke, like even I did about Viborg, the fisherman of Denmark, but the Romanian league's not what it was. But West Ham, if you remember the last Romanian team that we played twice, 2 years running, and managed to embarrass us both times.
Yeah.
And they've ended up falling out of the league, haven't they? Astra Zhezhou. So I think we've got to bear that in mind, that we don't want to be embarrassed again by another Romanian team, because it looks like our record against Romanians is not very good. We played a team called Politehnica Timișoara in 1981 that we beat 4-0 at home, but I think we lost 1-0 away. Obviously won that 4-1, but then Astra Giurgiu obviously beat us both times, knocking us out of the qualifiers. So it's about time we even that up against the Romanians, even though it's not knockout where the others were.
Let's have a look at our team, because Moyes did a press conference today and he talked about a number of players that are out or may not make it. So I think Creswell's got a groin injury, so he's out, and Johnson has got a hamstring, so he's out as well. And apparently Souček picked up a knock against Chelsea, and it's quite possible.
He's out.
Yeah, he's out. And then Dawson, well, whatever the controversy may be, I listened to your podcast earlier, and I listened to what Sean was saying about him. Apparently, he's not making himself available. That doesn't sound like a Craig Dawson to me.
No. The thing with these is you've got to manage the information well, because the last thing a club wants is a player that they want to keep, but they put out is effectively saying, I don't want to play, because if by hook or by crook he does walk onto the pitch, you can imagine the reception he's going to get.
Yeah.
And it'd be a shame for Dawson to spoil. It would be a shame for Dawson to spoil what he's achieved at the club.
Yeah, I actually, to be honest with
careers.
you, I'm taking that with a pinch of salt.
Yeah,
I can't see that Dawson is that type of player that wouldn't want to make himself available for a game.
No, I mean, if he's at the club, he's at the club, and that's the thing that I would struggle to understand with him as a player. If he's at the club, he's at the club. I suppose there is always sympathy for what he wants to do. But sometimes you say, well, look, at the end of the day, you could sign the contract, and there's no real loyalty in football, is there, nowadays? So, but he did sign the contract, and sometimes you have to say, well, we want to honour that. And I feel for him though, because at the end of the day, it ain't like ain't like Moyes. He's probably got him down as a first team starter. So
this is the other thing, isn't it? When everyone's back fit and ready, I mean, look at Kehrer. I think Kerrer's quite amazed us all, isn't he? In the way he's slotted in so quickly.
Well, Kehrer, I think Kehrer was bought off of the back of a Gerd's injury.
Yeah, I agree. I think he was too. And if a Gerd wasn't injured, we wouldn't have gone for him at all.
Yeah.
The irony.
So it's one of them things where if you imagine that, say, Dawson did leave, so we're left with 4 centre backs, and you got a Gerd, you got Kehrer, you got Zuma, and you got Ogbonas. All 4 of those would expect to be starting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then of course Scamacca. I don't know if he's going to be risked tomorrow. I know he's been back in training, etc. But it could be 50-50. I think they're going to take a late decision on Scamacca. And of course, Gerd, he's been out. He'll be out till probably the World Cup. But there are a couple of players that, Scamacca we talked about. Paqueta, do you think he'll start tomorrow?
Paqueta.
For the man who still calls Kufal.
Well, he's Kufal. But at the end of the day, try and sing a song with Paqueta. So he's Paqueta in the song, isn't he? I didn't. It's a tough one, because we've got because of the bad start in the league. Last season we had a good start in the league, and I don't know if that freed him up for what he could then do in the Europa League. When we get into that, but now I suppose sitting in the bottom 3, the psychological effect of everybody keep looking at that and seeing us in the bottom 3, even though points wise it's not by much. Would that influence though the team he puts out with one eye to Sunday's game against Newcastle? That is a very big game for West Ham.
I mean, not wanting to give Steaua Fcsb any disrespect. if we don't start Paquetá tomorrow, that wouldn't necessarily be such a big problem, would it? If they're not of the level that we're kind of expecting them to be.
No, I mean, ideally, I suppose if you think back last season, I think Rice. I don't know if Rice missed out. It'd be like Souček. You would want either Rice or Souček in the middle. The good thing is, I suppose we've got Lanzini, Ben Rama.
This is it.
The fringe players and whatever could all play instead of Paquetá. But then again, if you want to bed him in, and his European football experience already, playing Milan, playing Lyon, is it better to have him for the European games?
Yeah. He could be quite suited to that. But then that opens up a whole can of worms about. I don't know if I did a show earlier today about should Moyes be sacked and because a lot of people are going on about he's not picking the players that he's bought, etc., etc. And I just try to put a bit of context on it. I said like here in the thing here, Paquetá's only been with us a week. People kind of forget that he's only trained for a full week, a week and a day. And talked about other players, not being quite ready, etc. And but what people are expecting is that players like Paquetá should be starting every game. They want to see him play because of the price tag, I guess. But you're absolutely right. There is Lanzini. There are other players that will be able to step in and do a decent job. But quite possibly, you're right. He might be more suited to European games at the moment.
Yeah,
to get him acclimatized.
But I mean, for me, is I don't know how a lot of people feel. For me, if you look at it, we got a better chance of winning the Conference League. This tournament than we have of finishing 5th or 6th.
As it stands, yeah. As it stands.
So, for me, the ultimate aim of West Ham should be playing Europa League football. So if we want it, we ain't just going to gate crash. We got to spend 3 or 4 years playing Europa League football realistically to build up that experience, build up.
People ain't going to like that, mate.
I know, but this is how you do it. This is what teams have had to do before you start looking at dreaming of Champions League football. If there's an ultimate aim, this is what you have to do. People say so. If at the end of the day we want to be in the Europa League, well, currently there's 3 ways of achieving that. One is to finish 5th. The other is to win the FA Cup. The third way to do it is to win this cup. So if you look at it, bearing in mind that in the FA Cup, you've got the likes of Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool and Chelsea that all do take the FA Cup seriously the further they get into it. It shows you how difficult that is to win as a cup now when you look at all the previous winners of it. So therefore, this is the cup that none of them teams will be playing in. There's a difficulty that comes when not the Champions League team, sorry, the Europa League team dropped. But bearing in mind, last season, Dynamo Zagreb dropped into this and they had played Champions League qualifiers. So you get teams that play Champions League qualifiers that then finish 3rd in Europa League tables, then drop in playing 3 European tournaments at the same season. Now, this is where I do have a trouble with that system. But it's making it, it's still an easier tournament. It's still easier for us to win than to finish 5th or 6th.
I think getting good. I don't want to be overly confident, but getting through the group stages, I think we should do it with ease. You look at the teams that we've got that we're up against in this group, and you compare the teams that we were up against in the Europa League, and we all thought that the teams that we were up against last season were going to be tough, and we kind of did. We kind of managed that really well.
I mean, we surprised ourselves from the start, winning 2-0 away Zagreb. I mean, I'm sure we've all shared, the stat that Chelsea, Arsenal, and Tottenham have all gone to Zagreb and lost. Believe me, I put it in a few chats. Especially all the Arsenal and Tottenham fans who I work with. They got to chuckle at that stat, but that was just a year ago. Just a year ago, we were beating Dinamo Zagreb easy. They struggled, but they struggled to beat our reserve. We put 7 academy players out in the home league because we would already won the group, and they beat us 1-0. So, you know, the only thing is we don't really want to finish runners up in this group. We do want to win it because we want that week or 2 weeks off where we don't have to play a drop down straight away from the Europa League in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. Mihailo says, no disrespect to Steaua, but they're barely championship level. The game I'm worried about is Newcastle at home, rather than the Steaua game. Moyes could be sacked if we lose that game, even though he doesn't deserve that.
Yeah, don't worry
think
about
he
that.
will, Mihailo.
He won't be, but you know, there was a good article written by Barry.
Yeah, I referred to that
on the website. Yeah, you know, that highlighted what comes after. You know, the thing is, if he gets nothing against Newcastle, it just heaps more pressure on him, because if after that cycle of 5 games, you know, we're still sitting 3rd or 4th from bottom, you know, the owners, you know, we've seen it. I mean, I was surprised with the Chelsea sacking today, in a way, because I thought change of, you know, if this was Abramovich, I would have understood it, because that's his.
What he used to do.
Mantra, you know. But this new ownership. But then again, as we've seen time and time again, with a new ownership, they like their own men. That's not their man. So you can go. Still a bit harsh, but it just shows you what football can be. The fat lady's warming her voice up, says Peter. Possibly, maybe. I don't know if Karen's got a singing voice on yet, but
Cornet, Maxwell Cornet. I mean, everyone's been screaming for him to start, and we saw the impact he had on against Chelsea when he came on for his cameo role. That is frustrating. I mean, you know, as much as we admire what Moyes has done, we do get frustrated with an appearance at the last 5 minutes of a game. But he showed his worth, and the reason Moyes explained it again today in the press conference, the reason why the player hasn't started yet is because he's another one who just wasn't sharp enough. And I mentioned that.
Yeah,
hang on. I mentioned that in the thing I did earlier today, and someone came back and said, "Well, what about that? What about Bowen and what about Declan? You know, they don't look match fit, but they've started." But I guess with Moyes, it's who he knows, isn't it?
Yeah, it's you know me. I'm a great, apart from Allardyce, I'm a great backer of managers, and let them get on and do what they do. I wait till the ownership dispense with them, and then it's the king is dead, long live the king, because another manager comes in. You know, but it don't mean I don't get frustrated with managers, because obviously I do. Moyes can be frustrating when he sort of comes out and says things about a player like that, bearing in mind a player that played in the Premier League last season, so doesn't need the introduction to the Premier League like the other foreign players that he signed.
Yeah.
But then, you know, Paquetá's in the team. Kehrer goes straight in the team. Why not the same excuse there? And so it's just little things like that, you know, because out of all them, Cornet had the Premier League experience and had a lot of work to do. You know, when you're playing in a relegation team, you're working hard, aren't you, to keep Burnley up. So I don't know. I mean, the only thing is I was disappointed when he come on Chelsea missing that header.
But he was going backwards, or it was going away from it. It looked like he was trying to reach for it.
Yeah,
you know, but I guess he starts tomorrow, doesn't he? I mean, I think a lot of people would like to see him start on Sunday as well.
You know, but again, this is a thing that frustrated me with Moyes, is he complains about these players not having minutes, not having this and that, but then don't put them. You know, so what? I don't know why he's not putting him on.
Yeah.
You know, you can't sit there and complain when you've got the games, can you?
This is the thing about Moyes with loyalty, isn't it? Because the player he would replace, and I was surprised that he didn't take him off against Chelsea, would be Bowen. But he's loyal, isn't he? You know, and I think he wants to give Bowen that opportunity to sort of like get his rhythm back. But that sometimes has an impact on the team. If he'd have brought Cornet on for Bowen, say 15 minutes to go, no one would have complained about that. You know,
no, I did, and it's funny because loyalty is a strange word in football. Yeah, all round, from fans to players to managers to owners. You know, they all want loyalty, but as soon as push comes to shove, they will ditch that and do what they want. But Moyes shows loyalty to players, and in a way that's good in a way, because those players that are off form feel like they will, have him on their side. But what it does as well is the player that's sitting there thinking, I should be playing and not getting a chance, he gets frustrated, and that can build problems in a squad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because the players sitting on the fringes, when you're watching a team win, if you're on the sideline and you're a professional footballer, you understand that if you're winning, they keep the shirt. That's the way it goes. When the team's not winning, players in your position are not playing well, and you're still sitting on the subs bench, you ain't going to be happy, are you?
No, not at all. This is the thing. Who else we got? Oggy, he's likely to start tomorrow and probably start alongside Thilo Kehrer.
Yeah.
Good to see him back, although someone did mention the minute we put Oggy on against Chelsea, the writing was on the wall. Can I find that comment? It's somewhere there. Seemed to indicate that Moyes wanted was happy for.
Yeah, you could say that. See, do you say, and this is the thing, I mean, we've done, Saturday's been done to death, but was it Moyes' substitution of Ogbonna, or was it Tuchel bringing on Kai Havertz and Ben Chilwell? Bearing in mind it was those two players that scored the goals.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, Ogbonna wasn't involved in the mistake that allowed Chilwell in.
For the first goal.
Yeah.
So you won't accept that...
No, I won't.
You won't accept that Fabianski was at fault for that.
Well, you've obviously listened to the podcast and heard me say what I say. So
I have heard you say.
Yeah.
Well, you've had time to change your mind. So
do I ever change my mind? Look, if people want to prove me wrong, I will openly change my mind. But at the end of the day, two defenders go for the ball, let it slip through. What is Fabianski supposed to do?
Well, the irony is that I always keep going on about Fabianski not coming off his line, and the one time that he does, he's got a massive gap between his legs. Which,
well, you say that, but if you go around and look at modern day goalkeepers, it's sort of it's a move that I suppose Schmeichel really made, but it comes from playing handball. So if you watch handball, which is massive in Scandinavia and in Europe, you watch handball and watch the goalkeepers. They've got a bloke holding the ball, 5 feet from them, and the goalkeeper's got to stop the ball going in. And if you look at the way the star and now the spreading, which is a continental goalkeeper thing, that's been born off of the handball, the way they play it as kids.
Quick question from Keith. If Moyes did get sacked, do you trust the ball to make a good appointment?
Well, I don't trust the ball to do anything. So, but they appointed Moyes.
So that weren't bad.
I mean, their track record on managers from Birmingham City, I could tell you every manager they've ever appointed. They sacked Cooper, brought in Trevor Francis, sacked Francis. Oh, sorry, brought in Barry Fry, Trevor Francis, Steve Bruce, to then McLeish, and that's the weird thing. They had 17 years at Birmingham, only appointed 4 managers. They've what have they had, 5 or 6 with us?
Yeah.
Sack Zola, Avram Grant, Sam Allardyce, Bilic. Allardyce has had the longest, unfortunately, run, hasn't he? The worst manager of the lot, and they wouldn't sack him. So,
Thilo Kehrer. I guess, it'd be nice to rest him, but he doesn't look like he needs a rest, does he? So he starts alongside Ogbonna tomorrow for you?
If you look at Zuma, he looks like he's been out. That's probably not a bad shout, Kehrer, and it's captain, because it seems to be a bit of a burden on Rice. But I think he can do it. You sort of want to protect him, but if you look at Zuma, it seems like he's got this injury problem that does affect him towards the end of games. I'm not sure if Zuma can last like 90 minutes. So you would be looking at it and think, well, I'd expect 4 or 5 first teamers to start. That's what I would expect, and he would be one of them.
And then, of course, Flynn Downs. We heard, well, Souček's got a knock.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people saying, oh, even Moyes himself in the press conference today kind of hinted that perhaps he actually hinted that Scamacca might be back as well. But he also hinted about this young lad. We need to see him play, don't we? And this is an ideal opportunity to see what he's like, no?
Yeah, I mean, he was bought. He did well at Ipswich. Got the move to Swansea. Had a season at Swansea. The Swansea fans were gutted to see him go. They all loved him. So he obviously in the Championship. No disrespect to Bucharest, but if Bucharest were playing in English football, where would they be? Probably in the Championship. The boy needs minutes in a West Ham shirt. I think whether there's nervousness or star syndrome, that he's come to the club he's supported as a boy, there's probably players still there, Creswell and whatever, that he would have cheered on. And now he's in the squad with them and everything. And maybe it got to him. And this is where Moyes is going, or he's not so sure. Stories started coming out about Moyes not being sure about him. Well, you've signed him off of the back of what you've watched him do for Swansea. Let's get him on the pitch. Let's get him the confidence to do that. And this is the ideal game.
And so that leads me to the predicted lineup. So let me just go through and to the Romanian viewers, do please forgive me for first pronunciation and probably getting half this team wrong. But my guess for their team is going to be Tarnovamu in goal, Radunovic, Dawar, Buhina.
You're doing well. 2 names in. That's it. Yeah, the Sean Whetstone School of Pronunciation. Keep going.
And Pantea in defence. 2 holding midfielders, Ejuma and Alaru. And then 3 attacking midfielders, Kadea, Miculescu, Popescu, and then up front, Koman is my guess for them. So do correct me if I'm wrong, your Romanian viewers.
I would like to try.
This is the team I think we're going to go with tomorrow.
Okay.
So, I mean, Alphonse Areola,
yeah,
he's our cup keeper, isn't he?
Yes.
Now, there is a choice between Ashby and Soufal. And the reason why I've gone for Soufal is because he was in the press conference today. And usually when a player does the press conference with the manager, they usually play.
Yeah.
And then Kera, we talked about alongside Ogbonna. And then obviously with Creswell out, you're going to have Emerson at left back. Do you agree with that back line?
Yeah. If you look at it, it's the experience that he wants. I don't think he will risk playing youngsters in the back. So yeah, I think that is it. Yeah.
And then I've got Downs in alongside Declan tomorrow. He's got a choice. He's got a choice of either Downs or Coventry. But I think you're right, mate. I think see what he's made of. You know, give him at least the first half. Yeah. And if he looks like he's out of his depth, then you can change it, can't you?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And then up front, I am going with Paquetá, even though I kind of think we don't really need to have him there, but I guess for a bit more game time, etc. And that's quite a daring front line. I've taken Fornals out. I don't think Fornals will play. I think Fornals will play on Sunday. Yeah. But I'm going with Cornet, resting Bowen, Paquetá, and Benrahma just behind Antonio, because I'm not so sure Scamacca will make it tomorrow. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, with his illness, he's probably not been training. So, we all know what Moyes thinks, that players need to, be training to start. So, it's a tough one. But I don't think you're far wrong, actually. If we can look now at experience of what Moyes did last season in the Europa League, and he did go very strong at the start. So his mantra is, I think, is to try and win the first 4 games, or definitely, win 3, draw 1 maybe, and then win the group early, and then play the kids.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's finish off with. There's a couple of questions that people have asked, so we can just finish off with those. Someone asked about the stadium. Scott, Good evening to both of you. Good evening to you, mate. I hear that the stadium's going to be nowhere near capacity tomorrow. Do you think it's because of the cost of living or not a big name team? Or I put a third one in there. Did they not quite get it right on the prices?
I think it's a mixture of the three. It's quite a strange thing. I paid £24 for my seat. Yeah. The advertised price was 19. Now I've queried that with the club. But if people were logging on thinking, I didn't know if I could go, whether I'd make the game, but I can make the game. So I bought my tickets last night and I paid £24. And when I looked, it should have been 19. So I flagged that with the ticket office and they replied, but not with a satisfactory answer. So I'm going to be chasing that up again. I think realistically, it's not a big name European team. The big name that stands out really is the Anderlecht's name, but they're obviously no disrespect to the Romanian people there, that's the Steaua Bucharest, whether it's the real one or not the real one. I'll leave that for them to argue over. But it's not a big draw. We all know the league bit. It's like a game of chess in a way, where the real action is after Christmas in the knockout tournament. It's the same, I think, in Champions League football. Yeah, if you get a big name, you get a team. But if you've got drawn against Bodo Glimt or something, people are not going to be up for it, are they? You want to see the likes of Real Madrid and the Barcelonas come to your place and play. You don't want to play with them no matter what they're champions. So I think the pricing is a tad harsh. Yes, I think the cost of living will play into it. Another factor I think as well is Stratford, it's 6 years on. It's a horrible place on a night game to get out of.
Yeah, it bloody well is.
A lot of people do not live local to West Ham. West Ham's fan base is not drawn from the local area anymore. So therefore, and when I say people come from all over the country now, are season ticket holders, or even people from Europe, those people will be looking at it and going, families with kids will be looking at it. It's the first week back of school. Hold up a minute. Game don't finish till 10:45, 10 to 10. You're not out of the stadium. You don't get to the station until 11:45 if you're lucky, if you leave on full time. And then they've got to get home. So there's all that wrapped up into it. So
that's why it's best to avoid Stratford and go Hackney Wick.
Yeah.
Much easier.
Or walk down to the high road and walk into the station that way.
Or that as well,
like the locals know.
Vlad said that we're likely to play 4-3-3 tomorrow. Will that make a difference to the way we set up?
No, I don't think so. We come up against that in the Premier League, and Moyes will stick to what he sets up. I mean, you look at the formation that you put up. So you got the four at the back. I spot, if would we set up as a 4-3-3? I think if you play 4-3-3, I don't know if it's difficult to play a 4-3-3 with Rice Downs and like Ben Rama or Paquetá or
I guess if you had someone like Fornals in there, you could put a 3 with Fornals alongside Declan and Downs.
The 4-3-3 for me would come that if you had Creswell, that you would move Emerson more into the middle. And then you had Creswell behind him. So that would be more my vision of a 4-3-3. I think with the players he's got, that's what he's going to do.
Yeah. Score. What do you think it's going to be? Before that, going back to the stadium, it doesn't look like it's going to be full tomorrow. Is that going to affect the way we play?
No.
You think we're going to win comfortably regardless?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest win in the stadium was done with the smallest crowd when we beat Macclesfield. No, I'm not saying, but by all means, these are far superior to Macclesfield. But at the end of the day, 20-odd thousand were there to watch Grady Diagana tear Macclesfield a new one, make himself a name that he's not lived up to. Yeah. So I don't think that, it's 30,000. Funny enough, and this is the thing where we argue. So let's say West Ham get 35,000. Yeah. At Upton Park, they'd have got 25,000. Yeah.
And yet
I know that for sure because I used to go to these games and they wouldn't sell out at Upton Park.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I remember the Intertoto Cup games, and I know they were in the summer. Upton Park held 36,000. I think there was 20,000 there.
Yeah, so it's not going to be much different. I think you're right. I think the Anderlecht game is going to be quite packed.
Yeah.
And this one probably not. And probably the Silkeborg game might be just almost as bad in terms of capacity. Yeah. But all right, give me your score for tomorrow, mate.
Yeah,
because I know you've got to go. I've kept you much longer than 10.
Yeah, I think 3-0 is 2-3-0. I think but it's hard because I'm doing this blind without knowing realistically. As I said at the start of the show, we've been embarrassed by Romanians before, and there's no saying they couldn't do it again. I did see one of the Romanians earlier say it could go two ways. West Ham could win 9-0, or we could get or we could, get a 0-0. And I think if it stays 0-0, if the longer they can hold us, because there'll be 30,000 people there, we won't be happy. And
it will become frustrating as well.
Yeah, and we can get, the crowd can turn. We haven't done it for a couple of years because we've had good football, but if we think there's a team not performing everything else, we can turn.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going for I think it'll be a 3-0 as well. I think we'll win it. I don't mean it in a disrespectful way, and thank you to the all the people that have been commenting, especially the Steaua fans as well.
Yeah, good luck.
But, no disrespect to them, but I think it will be. I think the Anderlecht game is likely to be similar, but we'll talk about that when that comes up.
The funny thing is obviously, there's a lot of Romanians that live in East London, so I'm hoping that they've got a good turnout.
I think they are going to have a good turnout tonight. Tomorrow night.
It's funny. I think I work with the only Romanian that don't like football, though. I tried to have a chat with him, and he was like, "Oh, mate, I don't like football."
Don't really?
Yeah, killed that dead, then, isn't it?
All right, mate. Well, thank you all for joining. It was a short, brief, preview of it. I've done as best as I could with regards to what I know about the team. Thank you guys in the chat for correcting me. It looks like they're going for a 4-3-3 rather than a 4-2-3-1. Let's see what happens tomorrow, and we'll be back on Friday because there's no way I'll be doing an after show. Where are you going for a drink? We went to Steaua the other day.
Oh, did you?
It was quite nice.
All right. You're still recording, by the way. Normally we do this off there.
All right, I'll do it off it then. Thank you all for joining. Really much appreciated, and we'll see you soon.